Well, for more now, I'm joined by Marina Miron. She's from the War Studies Department at King's College London, a familiar face to our viewers. It's good to see you, Marina. You know, we've just seen that report there from Vovchansk. Will Ukraine be able to hold this city?
Good evening, Brent. Well, the situation is very difficult for the Ukrainian forces, but what we have to understand is that Vovchansk is divided by Seversky Donets River, so it gives the Ukrainian forces a protective barrier. From my understanding, the town is now divided in two parts, and the Russians are controlling the northern part, and they will have to cross the river in order to be able to capture Vovchansk in its entirety, which I think is the idea behind this offensive. However, I don't foresee it to be happening very quickly, or at least not as quickly as we have seen the advances around Vovchansk.
Ukraine says that it has stabilized the situation across the front near Kharkiv. Is that what you are seeing and hearing?
Well, from what it looks, it seems to be more stable than a couple of days ago, but that doesn't mean that the Russians have stopped or that their offensive operation in that direction has run out of steam yet. So we have to wait a couple of more days to see what is going to happen specifically, because I think that they will be also pushing along other directions, and possibly if and when that offensive runs out of steam, I think that the Russians might try to go for Sumy or even Chernihiv.
Russia has not advanced that deeply, but it has seized some territory. I mean, is Ukraine going to be in any position to retake that anytime soon? And I just want to ask you about the knock-on effects for Ukraine. Russia says that it has recaptured the town of Robotyne on the southern front. I mean, that's basically the territory that Ukraine captured during its offensive last year. So is the situation there, is it clear? And I mean, is it to be expected given how stretched Ukrainian forces are?
Well, that's the whole idea, I think, behind this Kharkiv offensive, is to stretch the Ukrainian forces and to stretch them even more. And in my previous reply, I said they might attack Sumy and Chernihiv in order to keep the Ukrainian forces stretched. And with the Ukrainian having issues with their manpower, having issues in terms of military equipment, even as the U.S. aid is arriving in Ukraine, it is going to be difficult. And I don't see any strategic purpose in trying to recapture the northern territories just yet, because I think it would be the wrong place for the Ukrainian forces to concentrate their efforts on. And to come back to Zaporizhia, essentially the Russian Ministry of Defense declared Robotyne as liberated from Ukrainian forces. From us end, it looks like the Ukrainian forces are still present in one part of the settlement. However, I think in the information spectrum, it is a psychological blow to the Ukrainian forces, because essentially taking Robotyne would negate all the effects of the counteroffensive, which didn't go according to the plan. So I think also from this perspective, the Ukrainian forces are finding themselves in a difficult position.
So if it's true to say that Russia is currently on the front foot in this war, how close is Ukraine to suffering a serious defeat?
Well, what would that defeat look like is a question, or how far is Russia going to go? And I think that this will depend on many factors, not least on the outside support to Ukraine. There have been suggestions, for instance, to use NATO's air defenses stationed in Poland and Romania to free up some air defenses inside Ukraine to basically help Ukraine in that way, because air defenses systems are scarce. Also, it depends on ammunitions, but most importantly, I think, is the human factor and the fact that Ukraine is trying to mobilize troops, but is failing to fill file and rank to send to the front lines. And the polarization that is taking place inside Ukrainian society and the problems in the military command and political problems also Zelensky is facing right now. They will all determine how and when and if Ukraine can be defeated on the battlefield. But that doesn't mean that Ukraine will lose politically just yet. So it remains to be seen, but I foresee that the combination of these factors will determine the fate of Ukraine until probably November 24, until the U.S. presidential elections.
Well, you know, Ukraine can always say that one reason that it may be vulnerable now is because the U.S. had a delay in delivering weapons, the delay that we've seen in the last few months. But it can't blame anyone else when it's talking about not having enough soldiers, right? This new mobilization law that's been passed, this effort to get more soldiers into the military. I mean, do you think that should have been done a year ago? Are they doing this too late?
Well, I think it's not fair to put the blame on the U.S., just because, as I said, there are so many factors at play here, and technology is not going to fill the manpower gap. Technology is also not going to boost the morale. Well, to a certain extent it might, but it's not going to make such a great effect. And if we look at the war in Afghanistan, U.S. was technologically superior to the Taliban, just to make a point that technology is not everything in war. And the mobilization is always a very unpopular choice. And at the very beginning, there were a lot of volunteers to join the Ukrainian armed forces. Right now, the situation is looking bad. So I'm not sure if starting earlier to mobilize people would have helped the overall effort. And we also have to remember that Ukraine has special forces deployed to Sudan to counteract Russian activities there. So I'm wondering, maybe the Ukrainian command should start redeploying those forces, because they are very capable and they could be a great help right now in Ukraine. And of course, we have to understand that mobilizing people means they need to be trained, they need to be outfitted, they need to be paid. So this is affecting Ukrainian economy, because who is going to pay the taxes to finance all of this? So the economic situation of Ukraine is also an important factor in the capability to mobilize people.
Marina Miron from King's College. As always, Marina, we appreciate your time and your analysis tonight. Thank you.